Welcome back to Gun Basics, where I teach you what you need to know to get your foot in the door to understanding guns. In today's lesson, we'll be talking about actions. An action is the type of mechanism that a gun uses to load, fire, and unload a cartridge. Now, this isn't going to be a comprehensive list, but a list of some of the more commonly seen action types. As with almost everything with firearms, there are many different actions, and each type of action has many different variations. And while some actions may be more common on certain types of guns, they generally aren't exclusive to any different type of firearm. I also want to let you know that I'm not an expert in anything that I'm talking about. I'm just some guy on the internet, so my information may not be complete, but if you're curious to learn more, there are many different resources for you to check out. I'm also going to be leaving out some information on purpose just to keep things brief. So if you want to add some information to anything that I'm talking about, please do so in the comments. So let's start off simple with muzzle loaders. Before modern cartridges came into use, muzzle loaders were the norm for most small arms. Muzzle loading means that the gunpowder and the bullet had to be stuffed down the barrel of the gun by hand. The most recognizable muzzle loaders are muskets, such as the ones that were used in the American Revolution and the American Civil War. But we're going to be focusing mostly on cartridge-firing firearms, such as breech loaders. Once more modern cased ammunition was developed, so too were new types of actions. Breech loaders are single-shot weapons just like muskets, but they're loaded at the rear of the barrel. The rear of the barrel where the cartridge is loaded is called the breech. The breech is opened by the user and a cartridge is loaded, the breech is then closed, and the weapon can fire. The user then opens the breech again and removes the cartridge. A popular example of a weapon with this type of action is the Springfield trapdoor rifle. Break action. Break action guns are similar to other breech loaders, with the big difference being that the method of opening the breech is by breaking the gun open at the hinge. A commonly seen break action is the double-barreled shotgun. An easy way to identify this kind of action is that when loading or unloading, the gun looks as if it's actually breaking in half. As firearms design matured, guns started to incorporate what are called bolts. A bolt allows for the user to eject the fired cartridge, load a new one, and seal the breech, all in a few swift movements. So instead of snapping your gun in half to open the breech, you can just move the breech itself while the rest of the gun stays in place. Bolt-action guns have historically been pretty popular with military and hunting applications, with the fabled Mosin Nagant being a notable example of a bolt-action rifle, but there are probably thousands of different kinds out there. Lever actions. Lever-action guns operate, unsurprisingly, with the use of a lever. The lever is manually operated by the user, and after firing, it moves the bolt away from the chamber and ejects the spent casing out of the weapon. At the same time, an elevator will pick up the cartridge from the gun's magazine and load it into the chamber. The lever then moves the bolt into position, closing the breech and securing the cartridge for firing. Lever actions, such as the Winchester 1887, are popular in cowboy culture. Pump action. Pump actions are actually fairly similar to lever actions, except instead of using a lever to manipulate the action, you use a pump. Pump actions also typically use elevators to load new cartridges into the chamber, just as lever actions do. Pump actions are commonly seen on shotguns, and are identifiable by their large, often heavily textured grips located under the barrel. The Mossberg 500 and the Remington 870 are some of the more common pump actions you'll find in the United States. Revolvers. Revolvers are iconic and unmistakable. A revolver works by housing the cartridges in a revolving cylinder that indexes before each shot. To load a new shot into position, the cylinder spins and places the cartridge in line with the barrel of the gun. When discussing revolvers, you'll probably hear about single action, double action, or single double action. Now let me explain what those are. Single action means that the trigger only actuates the hammer, while the cylinder needs to be spun by pulling the hammer back into the firing position. Double action means that the act of spinning the cylinder and dropping the hammer are performed in tandem by pulling the trigger. The advantage of double action over single action is that the user doesn't have to take the extra time to spin the cylinder to load a new round. However, it can result in heavier trigger pull. Single double action refers to a gun which can perform both in single or double action. Self-loading. Self-loading is maybe the area with the most diversity of design. Within this category are many different actions, and they're all a little different, but the one thing that they have in common is that they harness the power from a fired cartridge to load a new one into the chamber and make the gun ready to fire again. Pretty much any military rifle adopted in the past 70 or so years is going to be self-loading, with notable entries being the M16 and the AK platforms. Within self-loading actions are semi-automatic and automatic. Semi-automatic means that the weapon will fire, eject, and load a cartridge without additional input from the user, but it will not fire the newly loaded cartridge until the trigger is reset and pulled again. Automatic means that the gun will do all of this, but will fire the newly loaded cartridge and continue firing until the user lets go of the trigger or the weapon's magazine is emptied. And those are pretty much the basics. As I said in the beginning, this isn't a comprehensive list. Each type of action has many different designs, and I didn't even mention every type of action. But let's go over all of it again really fast, just to make sure that you got it.
That's some fancy shit.
No, no!
See this? This is my boomstick!
Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch it, and I hope you learned something. And if you want to fill in some of the gaps that I left in this video, go ahead and do it in the comments. Anyways, I hope you all take care. I'll see you in the next one. Spread the love, stay safe, keep learning. Class dismissed.